And I want Jade to share now about her story, about how she found her purpose, because it's a really cool story.
So I went to Clemson University. I graduated with a degree in communications, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So after I graduated, I moved out to LA, and I thought, you know what, maybe I'll start to pursue acting like most people do. So I signed up for 3 acting classes. I was taking private lessons. I got a job at a place called Wally's Wine Bar. It was a restaurant right in Santa Monica. And I worked there, and I really enjoyed acting, and then all of a sudden, COVID happens. Everything shuts down. So I'm in a new city by myself, my parents aren't there, and everything's shut down, and I say, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But all I knew was I had bills to pay, and I had to support myself. So I started driving for Postmates. I was picking up people's foods, delivering it to them, and I did that for a couple months. And while I was doing that, I'll never forget delivering a handle of vodka and tobacco to apartment 4B, and I said, what am I doing? What is my purpose, right? Yes, I enjoy serving. I know that's important, but what am I called to do? And so eventually things opened back up, and my friend that I had met at Wally's, she had just gotten a job at Nobu Malibu. It's like one of the most famous restaurants, most photographed restaurant in the country. It is beautiful, right on the water in Malibu. All the celebrities go there, all these famous people, people with lots and lots of money. And so she said, let me see if I can get you a job. And I said, okay, sounds great. So a week later, she says, hey, got you an interview. So I go in for my interview, and I'm thinking, I really need this job. Like, come on, God, please, please, right? And so I'm there with the manager. They're interviewing me, and he ends up hiring me on the spot. And I'm thinking, ha-ha, he liked my personality. He wants me to work here. They were just so desperate, they probably would have hired anyone, right? So I'm there, and I'm like, okay. And he says, this is a really fast-paced environment. You have to really figure out how to adapt. We're serving people who they really want to be served in a way of they think they're the best, and so you have to really get used to that. And so I said, okay, I can do it. So my first day on the job, they hand me an iPad, and they always booked a month in advance because it's that crazy to get in there. And so they give me an iPad, and they say, go check in our dinner reservations, and it was a Friday night. So I walk over to the front door with my iPad, and this guy walks in. He's wearing a hoodie, a mask, and sunglasses, so I can't see him. I have the iPad, and I say, what's the name on the reservation? And he stands there and just looks at me, doesn't say a word. I'm like, okay, do you have a reservation? He still stands there, looks at me, doesn't say a word. So I say, okay, well, sir, if you don't have a reservation, I can add your name to the wait list. Right now, we are quoting a minimum 4-hour wait, unless we have cancellations or no-shows. All of a sudden, my manager comes flying around the corner, walks up to him and says, sir, you can follow me right this way. She seats him at a table, and I'm like, what was that? What just happened? She walks back up to me, and she says, Jade, that was Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm thinking, first off, he couldn't have helped me out. He couldn't have whispered Leo, DiCaprio, something, right? I said to her, if I would have known, I would have said, you're telling me you and Kate Winslet couldn't have fit on the door when the Titanic sunk? Like, come on, right? And so being in an environment like that, it's fast-paced. You're having to learn how to adapt. My manager was yelling at me my first day on the job. And so I said, okay, being in a toxic environment like this, I need to be the person that's spreading positivity, being a leader to the people around me. Even though I just got hired, I have the ability to impact the people around me. So I worked there for about 1.5 years, and the first 6 months was amazing. When my mom would come to visit, she would stay up when I got home late at night, because they didn't close until very, very late. She would stay up and wait for me to tell her stories of who came in that day, what happened, what celebrity was there. And so it was really fun, but eventually, after 1.5 years, it was a very, very toxic environment. And I still, every day, my dad would say, be that leader. Encourage the people around you. So even though I was a hostess, the people who were bussing tables, I would go help them. Because we had, fast turnaround times for all these famous people, reservations booked back to back. And I said, I can help them. And they would say, you're the only hostess that helps us. And I would say, it's cheesy, but teamwork makes the dream work, right? And they would laugh, and they would say thank you. But they said, you really helped us. And so in those moments, I realized, oh my gosh, the stuff that my dad has said to me my whole life actually matters, right? He's not just annoying. And so I realized, wow, I have the ability in this environment to impact people. And so about 1.5 years after I started working there, I walked down one day to where these beautiful couches are overlooking the ocean. And these two women sitting there. And the one woman says to the other one, tell her. She says, no. She says, tell her. And so I overhear this. I walk over and I say, hi, ladies, how can I help you? And the one woman says, well, we came to this restaurant all the way from North Carolina. The Lord has blessed me, so I was prepared to tip my server a lot of money. But unfortunately, they gave us awful service. I said, I'm so sorry. I can go get a manager. You can let them know. She said, no, it's okay. I just wanted somebody to know. I said, oh, well, you said you came from North Carolina. I actually went to Clemson, South Carolina. Automatically, her energy changed, and she says, oh my gosh, what are you doing all the way over here? I said, well, I graduated, really didn't know what I wanted to do, and figured LA was the best place to figure it out. And she kind of looked at me strange, right? And she goes, are you a Christian? I said, yes, ma'am, I am. She said, can I pray for you? I said, please, I would love that. So she puts her hand on my shoulder, and she starts to pray for me. And she says, Lord, I know this girl is fearful, that she is allowing that fear to hold her back from what you have called her to do. But I pray, Lord, that you would allow her to step into her passion, her purpose, and her calling with faith, to honor and serve you in all that she does. And I'm there with this woman who I've never met in my entire life. And she turns to me and she says, I see you going all over the country, speaking and impacting people. And I'm just sitting there, I'm crying, she's hugging me. This is the middle of COVID, people don't really touch, right? And so she's hugging me, and we pull out of this hug, and she looks at me and she says, I believe God had me come all the way here from North Carolina, have crappy service, just so I could tell you that. And so in that moment, I said, she doesn't know what my dad does. She doesn't know anything about me, but she's speaking life into me right now. She's helping me to realize my purpose. So I called my dad after that and I said, Dad, I want to start speaking. And he says, I just want to make sure this is your decision. You're not doing this because you think I want you to. I said, no, I really feel like this is what I've been called to do. I grew up with these principles. I know them like the back of my hand. I've been in toxic environments where people need positive leadership now more than ever. I want to do this work. I want to travel and I want to speak. And he said, okay, let's do it. So I quit my job after a month because I still was initially fearful. I was still kind of allowing that fear to hold me back. But eventually I said, I just need to go for it. I'm not going to allow this to stop me from what I've been called to do. And so I go live with my parents for about a month to just start learning how to speak, interacting with people. I went there and I spoke to my old girls lacrosse team. I spoke to a youth group while I was there. But it wasn't until my dad said, hey, I'm going to Clemson to speak to the baseball team. I want you to come with me. And I said, all right, we both love sports. That's how we bond. I went to Clemson. So we go, and it wasn't until an hour before he was about to speak to the baseball team that he sprung it on me and said, Jade, I want you to talk to the team right before I speak. I was like, what? No, I've only spoken twice before, and it was to small groups. These are guys. Maybe they're going to judge me and say, what does this 24-year-old girl know about anything? We're not going to listen to her. What if they compare me to my dad? I had really bad imposter syndrome of, this is my dad's thing. I don't know if I should even do this. But he said, just tell them a story, a principle, and how they can apply it. And so I got up in front of them, and I realized I need to teach them the principle of talking to yourself versus listening to yourself, because that's what I need to do right now. I was listening to all the fear, all the doubt, all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. But when I was talking to myself and fueling myself with those words of encouragement on why I just needed to go for it and to just share something with them, I got up there and I shared that with them. And from that moment on, I've been speaking ever since. I've been speaking to companies, schools, working with teens to help the next generation because I know they struggle so much with confidence. And oftentimes we tell people, hey, go lead, but we don't give them the tools to do it. And so it wasn't, I didn't always want to do this work, right? Growing up, I always said, oh, my dad, like people would always ask me, what's it like growing up with a positive guy? And they think I'm probably going to say, oh, it's awesome, it's great. I always say one word, annoying. Very much so. But again, now I can appreciate it as an adult. And it wasn't until that woman spoke life into me where she helped me to realize my purpose. And so I want to challenge you, every conversation you have with people, you can help them step into that purpose. you can help them realize what they've been called to do. And just having those conversations can also help you to find out what you were made to do.
So good, Jade, so good. Let's go, you're so good.